nice to see you here, and I would like to thank Joe for inviting me to this conference. And if you look at your printouts then, or the website, then you will notice that there are two topics assigned for me. One is, which I proposed, is the voice of the psychonauts. It's about spirituality in psychedelic drug users. But for some reason, my other presentation title also went to the print, which is about the psychedelic harm reduction at festivals. So I was thinking that what should I do now? So I don't know if you attended because of the psychedelic spirituality or because of the psychedelic crisis intervention. So I guess I could make some Solomonic thing by just cutting in half. So it's basically I could present 10 minutes of this and 10 minutes of that, if it's okay for you.
The other one is online, so anybody
both of them are online, so and I can put them online, so it's the full version. So maybe I should just do both, like for shorter versions, and then I can put online all the long slides. Also, there will be a psychedelic conference in Prague on the end of this month, beginning of next month. It's called Beyond Psychedelics. So I will have this long version of the psychedelic crisis intervention there as well, so you can attend live. But now I think I will do shorter versions, and please wait for me after maybe 12 minutes, then I will switch to the other one. I really speak a lot, so please do the waving.
Sure.
Okay, so let's start with this one. So this is the title that I originally brought up. This is Spirituality and Self-Knowledge of Psychedelic Drug Users. And I was introduced, but I would just like to add that besides finalizing my PhD in cognitive neuroscience, I'm also the president of the Hungarian MAPS Association, and I also have a psychedelic community, an online community in Hungary, where I currently live. And I also have a psychedelic harm reduction team in Hungary, which is the biggest and best one. Basically, my areas of interest, I will just skip it. Within cognitive neuroscience and consciousness research and altered states of consciousness, I'm mostly interested in psychoactive drugs and hallucinogens, psychedelics, entheogens, and my favorite would be salvinorin A, but this is not the topic today. So basically, I will just show some preliminary data from our study. This is a preliminary data, but the other data had been published already. It's about drug use purposes, and I will describe our published paper. It was published in 2011, I guess. It's about the influence on life quality and spirituality by psychedelic drugs. There are some other stuff which I will skip. So psychedelic drugs and psychoactive drug use. It's a very complex phenomenon, as we know. So there are so many drugs and so many drug use patterns available. The social discourses, they mostly disregard the voices of drug users. So they are not included in the discussion because the attention is targeted at the problematic drug users mostly. However, a very large percentage of drug users are non-problematic. It's maybe around 90%, I guess. It's pretty much the same as with other substances. So there's always a vast body of people who are just non-problematic drug users. So non-problematic drug use is usually understudied. So the interesting thing to study is the drug use purposes. And our study was implemented as an online questionnaire. We recruited with snowball method from multiple sources, and the target group was the Hungarian psychedelic community. It's an online community of about more than 10,000 registered users. It had been around for 14 years or something, so it's accumulated a lot of people interested in psychedelics. So we used them as subjects. 667 web forms were completed. We excluded the problematic drug users. It's by self-assignment, and we ended up with almost 600 non-problematic drug users. We used 3 psychological instruments. One is measuring coping, one is measuring the purpose in life, and one short questionnaire is measuring spirituality. So we used many different drug types. we categorize as depressants, stimulants, hallucinogens, as you know, this kind of traditional division. And we were mostly interested in the major psychedelics, LSD, psilocybin, mushrooms, mescaline, salvia, DMT, LSA. And we also included the fictional drug Relevin, which is just a filter to filter out those people who are bragging about taking all the drugs, also the Relevin, which is a kind of a bogus drug. It's a methodological thing. So with drug use purposes, we made this list of just a sec. We made this list of 14 different purposes why people use drugs or may use drugs. And the first, second, and the third are the most important for us for this study. It's the religious or spiritual practices, self-knowledge, self-inspection, or self-medication. So we got this very nice cross table of the drugs and purposes. We excluded some drugs which didn't have any typical uses. So from this data you can see this is kind of cross-table data, so it means that if a substance is used for a certain purpose, and if a certain purpose was used with a certain substance also, if it somehow matched, then you will see the bigger number. So firstly you will see this very nice block here, which is the LSD and psilocybin mushrooms for the use of religious and spiritual things or self-knowledge. And this pops out kind of. There's also some things like tobacco for offsetting a deficiency, or like amphetamine for physical strength. These are most typical reasons. There are some interesting findings. For example, like marijuana was a very general purpose substance, so people use marijuana for many different reasons, none of them popping out like so strongly. And alcohol is like a mood enhancer, as you may know. So this is something that is an evidence of this, psychedelic drugs used for these kind of autognostic or self-knowledge purposes. We also had this questionnaire part in which we asked that how big influence a certain drug had on your life, and what direction of the influence was. So was it like a positive or a negative one? And from this, you could see pretty well that the psychedelic drugs were really on the top. So people claim that they had these drugs had a very positive and very big effect on their life. And coming down there, you can find basically the lower end. It's like a depressant medication, medical drugs, and alcohol combined. PCP, tobacco, and inhalants, which people said that they had a big and negative effect on their lives. So this is something that also supports this claim that these psychedelic substances can be used for life quality enhancing purposes. Okay, so and the other part of this same study was in the same user group. It was to compare the autognostic use of psychedelic drugs group with a group who used other drugs for other purposes, or a third group which didn't use any drugs except for alcohol and tobacco, because it's practically impossible to find a quite big control group that has never tried alcohol nor tobacco. So our working hypothesis was that there are differences in life meaningfulness and coping characteristics between these groups, and autognostic psychedelic drug use is associated with the enhancements of life quality, and we assume that the higher level of spirituality will be shown. So these are the major psychedelics that we were asking about, as you know, from the outside, also as well from the inside. And the methods I mentioned already. This was an online questionnaire. We obtained an informed consent, did some social demographic questions, and questions about drug use, how frequently and how long, for how long. We used these three psychological instruments: the coping, the meaningfulness of life, and the spirituality. And these are basically the immune competence inventory measures that what are the individual's capacities to cope with stress on the long term. And the purpose in life test measures this protective factor that the meaningfulness of life has on mental health of the individual. And the intrinsic spirituality scale is a short scale that is measuring that how much spirituality has an effect in a person's life events when he or she needs to make a decision. So how much spirituality affects this decision making. And we developed this psy-index score. It's a psychedelic index. It means that we calculated this for the non-problematic drug users. We saw that we counted that how many different psychedelic drugs they use, if they use it for autognostic purposes, and what is the importance and effects of the experience. So we just obtained the distribution range. I will show in the next picture, and we separated these people to two groups. One was the I'm almost there with the result. So we were comparing those who use mostly psychedelic drugs with autognostic purposes and have a big effect on their lives because of that, as compared with those who use other drugs with other purposes and don't have a big effect or not influenced by the psychedelics. So the results said that the psychedelic group was less problematic in substance use than the control group. There was a weak correlation between the PICI index and the psychedelic index. It's only if the problematic drug users were included, but it correlated with the spirituality. So the psychedelic index was correlated with the spirituality scale, and the spirituality was higher for the psychedelic group than with the control groups. And the number of psychedelic drugs used had a positive correlation with the spirituality as well. Basically, discussion very shortly. It's usually assumed that spirituality or spirituality may act as a protective factor against drug use. So people who are more religious, it's mostly religion, kind of tend to use less drugs. But in this study, we showed that this is a more subtle thing, so that spirituality may act as a protective factor against drug-related problems, not drug use per se, but drug use-related problems for both drug users and non-users. And although the meaning of spirituality is ambiguous, but the autognostic drug use can be seen as a training situation. You deliberately provoke an exceptional experience. You throw yourself into a very strange experience when you have to gain self-knowledge in order to cope with the situation. So it's kind of like practicing coping strategies. Okay, so basically I think this is the one study. It had been published in the Journal of Psychoactive Drugs in 2011. It can be found online. It's a scientific publication. Skip to the second one, which is the crisis intervention at psychedelic festivals. My affiliation is that also I'm a long-term psytrance person, as well as I also operate this psycare type of organization in Hungary, but we also go to international festivals with some people that are also present in this room. So who are the people who are involved in psycare? Okay, the people just left the room. But it's an international effort, so we include people from other countries as well. So, as you know, the contemporary psychedelic subculture is embedded for a big part in the electronic dance music events. This is the Goa and psytrance genre that you know, and there's a higher prevalence of hallucinogenic drug use at these events, that's for sure. These hallucinogens are LSD, DMT, psilocybin, mescaline, and so on. The set and setting are really ideal for drug use at these festivals. There are lots of time and lots of friends supporting the experience, which can be life-enriching, but there is substantial risk associated with the psychoactive drug use, that's also for sure. There are other safety risks as well, because festivals are held in an isolated location with harsh environmental conditions. It's very hot or very cold or both, and muddy usually. And there are some outdoor phenomena which the urban city dwellers are not used to, and psychoactive substance use, as said. So we need harm reduction interventions, which include distributing drinking water, very important, substance information, first aid, psychological help, and in some countries it's allowed to, the drug checking is allowed, so you can take your drugs to field analysis and they will tell you what's inside. We have this harm reduction equipment that we take to parties and festivals. It's basically drug information, water, some salty snacks, some earplugs, condoms, other stuff. So this is the basic pack that you can take to parties and festivals and do the basic harm reduction. There are concerning the substances, there are impurities and dosing errors, misidentifications of drugs, drug interactions with alcohol or with prescription medicine or with other illegal drugs. So there are lots of risks concerning the psychoactive drugs. These may cause discomfort, and there can be serious health consequences or accidents. Just as the person can be accident prone in that state of mind. So we need the psychedelic support services, and it's called psychedelic support or psycare. This is the term that we use in general, or psychedelic emergency services is also a term used. This is a specialized form of harm reduction. It's about handling psychedelics-related emergency and spiritual crisis situations. My crew had been on in this form since 3 years, and we have around 50 volunteers and 2 coordinators. Now this number is more than 86, 90 something parties and festivals within 3 years. Hungary is a very nice country in that sense that we have 3 or 4 parties each week, only like a go-up psytrance in Budapest, so it really gives a good opportunity to practice on the psytrance people how to reduce their harms. We also have international collaboration with other crews around. I personally had been at the Boom Festival 3 times and 2 times as a team leader, so this is the biggest festival probably around, and it gives lots of experience. We have 5 different types of emergencies that we make distinguish from each other. One is the medical emergency, it's about the biological body. One is a psychological, it's more like a difficult emotional processing and life problems, talking about them. There are clearly psychiatric cases who are pre-existing psychiatric patients who come to the festival, and they either forget to take their medication or they just experimenting with other psychoactive substances and get kind of out of the balance. And there are the classical psychedelic bad trips. We usually don't like to call them bad trips. They are kind of difficult experiences which may have some more difficult and less difficult parts, so it's more like a roller coaster experience. It's not like bad in general, and it's very important that what can you make out of it. So it's really important how you process it on the long run, and we just help to be there and to process for the person. And there are the spiritual crisis situations. These are not like the psychedelic so-called bad trips. It's more like kind of a religious and mystical pondering of big life things and the universe and the existence of humankind. So it's a different content as compared with the basic bad trips or other psychological or psychiatric difficulties. So this is also important to be recognized, and it needs a different type of approach from the sitters. So this consciousness alteration is mainly caused by serotonergic hallucinogens like LSD, psilocybin at festivals. It temporarily destabilizes consciousness, the state of consciousness, and then it repatterns into the different form, and later this altered state, different form, is also destabilizes and goes back to the pretty much the normal or so-called baseline state of consciousness. So this is kind of like a starts, goes up, and then goes back to the normal in normal circumstances. There can be some looping on incoherent thought processes for the clients. There can be impaired short and long-term memory. Sometimes their hallucinations and delusions appear as very, very real for them, so it's kind of hard to convince them that we are not FBI agents or something. The attention may turn inwards or toward unreal things, and some repressed emotions or traumatic memories may come up from their subconscious. There might be a diminished rational or verbal level of interaction, so it is possible that in the first few hours you can't even talk with the client because he or she is not in the condition to be able to verbally express the state. So the client might have anxiety, fear, difficult to access verbally, may not tolerate proximity. So hugging is not an instant thing to do automatically with everyone. Many people like it, but they have to be in that condition first. Behavior can be really unpredictable. Some really have to be restrained because they are fighting or trying to hurt themselves or trying to hurt other people. So it's sometimes the hard cases. Also, they might have no ethical norms, no social roles. They might try to spit on you or piss on you or other things which I wouldn't mention even. And there could be paranoia, catatonia, stupor, all types of mental states present. And quite many times it's just a disorientation. They just don't know where they are and what's happening to them. So there are naked people sitting, walking, running around. Some long trips are really, really long and they feel timeless. And there might be a crashing after long usage of usually stimulant drugs, like for a few days, then the person just crashes. Friends lost, and this causes discomfort, especially when on LSD. Epileptic seizures might happen. Very reckless dosage, like you get some liquid acid on the dance floor, someone drops something on your hand and then you lick it, and then oops, on the dance floor it's kind of a little bit too much, and then you lick like 5 doses of LSD, and it causes a kind of a stronger trip than you expected. Psychiatric patients just love to come to festivals. It's a very nice and supportive environment. It's a very tolerant environment, so they really like to be there, and maybe they are not always that kind of cognizant of what they are doing. Some people are just energetic and they are caught by security. Security can't tell the difference between an energetic and an aggressive person. This is a basic problem, so we have to train the security as well to recognize the cases. Some people with spiritual crisis, I mentioned already. Sometimes there are other substances instead of LSD, so people just noticed that they had been up for 36 hours tripping, so it wasn't the regular LSD on the blotter. And there are some freeloaders who are just love to come to festival, love to come to Psycare, love to take their drugs there, and there's like a full hotel services around, so we take care of them. So this might also happen. So how to help in emergencies? I think this is the most important slide. So the cases can be managed with somewhat similar methods. The metabolism works for us, so the drug effects are decreased gradually by time. So in a few hours, it will be much less than at the intake. So the helping process requires active care only for a few hours for most of the cases. I can generalize this. First, we have to convince the clients to stay at the helping premises. We build up a nice safe space with nice decorations so that they can feel comfortable, and it's much better than just walking around and maybe hurting themselves by accident or bugging other people who are also high. So convince to stay at us. By this we prevent accidental injuries, like I said. We disadvise them from taking more drugs. It's not like that, okay, my trip was stuck, so I need some more LSD to just get on with this. So it's very much disadvised at this point. It's the less variables, the better we can manage the situation. So a calming presence and very occasional communications are good enough for most cases. We shouldn't be talking about abstract things, not too much questions, no negative associations, just to be present and make things seem like that everything is okay and gonna be okay. And very simple verbal instructions can be said to the clients. and should repeatedly reassure that your trip will surely end and it will diminish by time, and then you just take your time here and you are in safe space and just wait. So what type of persons we can take as helpers? There should be a good knowledge of first aid and handling emergency situations for the helpers or sitters, knowledge of psychoactive substances. It is not said directly that it's good that you have your own psychedelic experience, but of course it's by empathy. You can kind of identify better with the client if you kind of have an idea what he or she is going through at the moment. There should be a knowledge of altered mental states and psychological suitability for this type of work, teamwork suitability, because there are usually not one but a few sitters working on the same case, as this might take more time, so maybe the next shift we'll have to take over the clients. And client work suitability, this is like social work, and we have to work with clients, and it needs certain qualifications. Yeah. Okay, I think the most important slide was there, so I will just skip this. And yeah, the other stuff was about the Sci-Fi Festival that we attended with some cases, but I think I don't need that at the moment. Yeah, so all the slides can be found. Yeah, just some pictures. This was the Sci-Fi Festival last year, 10 from the outside and 10 from the inside, so you would like to trip there, huh? So we collect case documentation forms very briefly, anonymously. So we have some statistics, what type of substances people used, and how to prepare for the care. And yeah, that's some case reports. We have a manual if you want to start up your own psychiatry team. That there is an English manual that you can read, and it tells everything how to organize festival interventions. And yeah, basically that's it. We are monitoring the dance floor for you. And the last advertisement is for the Journal of Psychedelic Studies. It's an upcoming journal, and if you are into the psychedelic research, then you can submit articles starting from now on. Thank you.